who murdered 4-year-old Paulette Gebara. Found dead in her room, hidden under her mattress, her death was ruled an accident. Note: English is not my first language, so I apologize for any mistakes made. This case happened in Mexico and I write this in hope that more people will know about her death, and that maybe someday we will know the truth of what happened to Paulette Gebara. The case of 4-year-old Paulette has always been one that I've been interested in, and the fact the official cause of death was ruled accidental kills me on the inside. Paulette was, without a doubt, murdered. Most articles and videos linked are in Spanish, but I did link some English articles at the bottom. I hope this post isn't too long. Help me find my way home. My name is Paulette. I'm 4 years old. I have a walking disability and speech impairment. I have a scar on the left side of my back. I can't survive on my own. I need my parents. If Paulette Gebara was alive today, she would be 11 years old, perhaps a 6th grader at her local elementary school with a passion for drawing or reading. Instead, 4-year-old Paulette Gebara was found dead under mysterious circumstances on the 30th of March 2010. Hidden beneath her mattress, still wearing her blue and purple pajamas and covered by blood-stained blankets, the investigators on the case ruled her death an accident. The little girl, they said, had died of asphyxiation. Paulette's bedroom on the morning of her disappearance. The last time Paulette was seen alive was on the 21st of March, on a Sunday night. The girl, alongside her father and 7-year-old sister, had just returned from a weekend trip to Valle de Bravo, located in the state of Mexico, approximately 3 hours away from the capital, arriving at their apartment in Huixquilucan, state of Mexico around 9 p.m. Her mother, Paulette Farah, had not gone with them, going instead on a trip to Los Cabos with her friend Amanda and returning home on the same day as her family. Paulette vividly remembered putting her daughter to sleep that night, kissing her one last time before leaving the room. The next morning, Paulette's nanny would alert the girl's parents of her disappearance. I looked for her in the bathroom, under the bed and in the closet. I couldn't find her and decided to search the parents' bedroom as well, then her sister's room. And then I searched her room once more. Erica Casimiro and her sister Martha were in charge of keeping a luxurious 2-story apartment clean and of taking care of the girls. That morning they made sure that Paulette's elder sister was ready for school and then waited with her until the school bus picked her up around 7 a.m. Later, at 8 a.m., they went to prepare little Paulette for kindergarten. After finding the room empty, they notified Paulette's parents Lizette Farah and Mauricio Gebara. They looked everywhere for the girl, not only in their apartment but in the entire building, inside the elevators, in the garden, the pool, the playground and even the parking lot, but Paulette was nowhere to be found. After speaking with the neighbors and the security guards, who had not seen the girl, the police was finally called. Assisting in the investigation were Alfredo Castillo, the then deputy attorney, and Alberto Bisbas, the then attorney general for the state of Mexico. Immediately, a forensics team was called to aid in the investigation and soon the entire apartment was filled with police officers and detectives. Inside the apartment, however, they found nothing. There were no signs of forced entry, no signs of a struggle, and most importantly, no signs of Paulette. The girl's parents, especially her mother, did countless of interviews where they pleaded for their daughter's safe return. She is an angel, she is a beautiful little girl, she never cries, never throws tantrums, she's the sweetest, Lizette was quoted saying. In record time, Paulette's picture was everywhere, with every single news outlet following the case closely. Was Paulette kidnapped? Had she perhaps wandered out on her own? Could she be still alive? An entire nation wondered, and for the time Paulette was missing she was what everyone talked about. On the 27th of March, several news crews were allowed into the apartment as Lizette, sitting on her daughter's bed, recalled what had happened that fateful night. She put her daughter to bed, kissed her goodnight and then she left the room. That night she didn't hear any weird noises, the dogs didn't bark and everything seemed fine. It would be 9 days, on the 31st of March, until Paulette's body was found. The girl was found suffocated, wedged at the foot of her own bed, 9 days after she went missing, and her death declared an accident, the BBC reported. Yes, I know where Paulette is, and I'll tell you everything only if you help me, because I don't want to get into any trouble with the law. I'm scared of going to jail. I'm desperate. This was the statement Mauricio Gebara gave to the police before his daughter's body was found. Lizette Farah and Mauricio Gebara Rahal were married in 2001. Accompanied by 600 guests, they exchanged vows in the church Madre de Dios de Tzitzicoa, in the small community of Lomas de Tecamachalco, now Calapan, state of Mexico. Lizette Farah was the daughter of Lydia Farah Morales and Bashar Naim Farah, a Lebanese immigrant and prominent businessman. Ever since a young age, Lizette enjoyed the privileges of being born into a wealthy family. She went to the best private schools in Mexico and soon became a lawyer. Mauricio, on the other hand, had become a successful businessman himself, exceeding in real estate alongside his brothers. Eventually, the pair had their first child, whom they called Lizette, and started their life together as a family. On the 20th of July 2005, Paulette Gebara Farah came into the world. The girl was born at only 25 weeks old, weighing 800 grams and measuring 35 centimeters. She was so small doctors didn't think she could survive, but, strong as she was, she proved them all wrong. Her miraculous birth did, however, cause her to suffer from disabilities. Paulette had trouble speaking and doctors said she would never be able to walk. Paulette proved them wrong once again, and she learned how to walk with the help of horse therapy. After that, the girl fell in love with horses. For Lizette and Mauricio, the upbringing of their second child was not as easy as what they had experienced with their firstborn. Paulette required constant visits to the pediatrician, expensive medications and therapy sessions. Their girl couldn't formulate full sentences and could only pronounce words such as mom, dad, water and food, and although she was able to attend school as other kids her age, she still required special attention. As they pleaded on national television, an entire country sympathized with the heartbroken parents of the 4-year-old, not realizing that they would become the prime suspects in the murder of Paulette Gebara Farah. Erica Casimiro, Paulette's nanny, would later testify, "After looking everywhere for Paulette, I found her mother sitting there, drinking coffee and smoking a cigarette, all while the father was calmly looking in a closet for the girl." Paulette's mysterious disappearance and murder soon sparked one of the biggest publicity campaigns in Mexico. Her mother, over and over again, talked of that Sunday night, of how her beautiful daughter had disappeared without a trace, leaving the family devastated. But, how could this be a kidnapping when no ransom call was ever placed? She wondered. Maybe she was taken by aliens, she was heard joking at some point, or perhaps even Harry Potter. The police would claim that in the week they spent at the Gebara's home they had searched every single room, followed all the proceedings as supposed to and interviewed as many people as they could. At last, they finally reached the conclusion: the parents or the live-in nannies had something to do with the murder of Paulette. After all, they were the only ones there when the crime occurred. The parents, they discovered, had been lying since the beginning. It wasn't them who searched everywhere for their daughter, it was the nannies that had searched every floor of the building hoping to find the girl, and it wasn't them who called the police. It was Mauricio's sister who, after receiving a call from her brother, called the emergency line. They were also having financial problems and were sometimes forced to ask the Casimiro sisters for money. Their marriage, too, was falling apart. Lizette had gone to Los Cabos to meet with her lover there and spent the weekend partying and drinking. Soon, the married couple turned against each other. Lizette claimed it was Mauricio who had planned everything. Mauricio said that Lizette, and the nannies, had something to do with Paulette's disappearance. On the 30th of March, both parents and nannies were placed in detention. They were taken to a nearby hotel and interrogated there by the police. The investigators concluded that Lizette showed no signs of being affected by her daughter's disappearance. She was defensive, anxious and angry, had an impulsive character and felt little empathy for others. Mauricio was also anxious, didn't show any signs of depression, and was evasive and insecure. They were hiding something, but never told the truth on what they knew or specified the details of how Paulette was killed. On March 23, it was revealed that Lizette had gone out with her other daughter and not come back until 7 hours later. What she did during that time, no one knows. Alberto Busbus, supported by the opinion of a psychologist, was certain that it had been Lizette who killed her own daughter. He did everything he could to put the blame on her, but failed to come up with enough evidence. The public too, had seen the image of a cold mother, one who had probably disposed of her special needs child in order to be free again. After all, she was quoted saying, "Even if I lose Paulette, I still have another daughter." What the investigators in the case never told the public was just how poorly they had handled the investigation. They had tried to hide their own inconsistencies behind their accusations against Lizette. Arriving at the crime scene, the forensics team was only allowed to look for signs of forced entry but nothing more. Alfredo Castillo, they said, had ordered them to stop almost as soon as they got there. The crime scene was never closed off. Hundreds of people walked in and out, leaving dirty footprints behind. A friend of Lizette had stayed at the Gebara's place, sleeping on Paulette's bed, and the police officers working on the case were even allowed to pee in the girl's bathroom. The crime scene was slowly and carelessly contaminated, and any evidence remaining was now useless. There came more questions. Was the dead girl hidden under the mattress this whole time? Busbus would claim that the girl had probably rolled over while she slept, got stuck in between the mattress and the wooden structure of the bed and died of suffocation. Paulette, he said, had been dead from 5 to 9 days, probably on the day she went missing. If the apartment had been searched extensively by detectives, how could they have missed Paulette's body? And if the girl had been dead for so long, how come no odor of putrefaction was ever detected? The blankets covering Paulette, according to the official version, not only concealed her body but also prevented the putrid smell from leaking. Nonetheless, the forensic experts working on the case would later testify that the girl could have only been dead 3 days prior to her discovery. Her body, then, couldn't have been hidden under the bed the entire time, and her death was most likely a homicide. The nannies had also made the bed and several reconstructions with the police, and found no trace of the girl. Even Busbus himself had checked under the bed while looking for the girl, lifting up the mattress and pulling the blankets, yet found nothing. Video of the nannies making the bed during a reconstruction. Then, of course, they failed to mention that Mauricio Gebara had close ties with Busbus and both got along pretty well. Busbus, surprisingly, believed Mauricio's story and never stopped blaming Lisette. Lisette would testify in a interview, https://www.youtube.com/watch v=chpetburk, 2 years after the fact that she had been constantly threatened by the police, and the detectives in the case had placed a gun in her head at some point. Nonetheless, Busbus's plan had worked to some extent, and everyone in Mexico believed, and still does, that Lisette, that cold and sick woman they had seen on TV, had murdered her innocent daughter. At the end, the most common theories surrounding Paulette's death are the following: Lisette killed her daughter. Having a child with disabilities might have been too much for a woman with a lack of empathy, and that was clearly not very affectionate. Lisette could have killed her daughter shortly after her disappearance and then hid her body somewhere in the house, perhaps in the elevator shaft. One neighbor complained that one of the elevators was acting strange and bumping into something, or an air duct. Most people in Mexico believe she is the killer. Staged kidnapping. Mauricio and Lisette were having financial problems and could barely afford the apartment they were living in. Because of this, they might stage the kidnapping of her daughter Paulette in hopes of getting money from the girl's grandparents or the public. They hid their daughter in an air duct somewhere in the apartment and told her to wait there. After realizing how much attention the case had gotten, they panicked and couldn't come back for the girl. She then suffocated to death. Paulette's elder sister, then 7 years old, might have killed her. The girl, experts said, felt superior to her sister but was also jealous of the attention her parents were giving her. Some speculate that Mauricio and Lisette might have been fighting that night. Paulette, scared, started crying and her sister tried to shut her up, killing her in the process. Of course, the nannies might have had something to do too, but little to no evidence has been found, and from their interviews it does not seem that they're guilty, although I might be wrong. I do believe that they know more than what they're saying, but might have been threatened to not speak out. I always thought Lisette was guilty, but after reading several news articles and Martin Moreno's book, Paulette, Lo que no se dijo, I'm not so sure anymore. I realize her behavior is extremely weird, and she does come off as being crazy in the interviews, but that does not necessarily make her guilty. Was she relieved after her daughter's death? Could be, yes. But I do feel that Busbus started a campaign against Lisette, perhaps trying to cover something else. It seems to me that the dad might have had something to do too. Some people say that Paulette was dead by the time she got home from their trip to Valle de Bravo, and that Busbus, being his friend, covered up for him. I don't want to exclude any theories, though, and I believe that anyone involved could have been the killer. What do you guys think of the case? Which theory seems more likely to you and why? I would love to hear some of your opinions.
Well, this was a great write-up, thanks for posting. I do have a question. In the beginning you said Paulette was covered in blood-stained sheets. Did anyone ever determine what this was from? The police never clarified that as far as I'm concerned. In the video, the coroner is quoted saying they beat her to death. They beat her to death as he finds the stained blankets, but no visible wounds are seen on the body. I think the stains could have been from decomp, but a lot of people believe this was blood and that something else might have happened to the girl. Especially after watching the video and hearing the coroner's comments. But the police, as they did with the rest of the case, never did clarify anything.
Wow, this is a fantastic write-up. Thanks for bringing light to Paulette's death. I'm in the US and hadn't heard of this story, but as you, Bex021 pointed out, this seriously reminds me of JBR. The police investigation throws me off, and makes me believe the father had something to do with it. Because of the father's ties to the police, it would make sense that they ruled it an accidental death, and diverted media attention onto the mother. This is a very strange, very sad case. I do, however, wonder if there was anybody else around the home aside from family and the nannies. Anybody who might know of Paulette's condition and that her mother was away. Living in an apartment complex would make it easier, one might think, to follow the family's activities. But, why would they return the body later and risk being caught? The case is indeed very similar to that of JBR. The investigation on this case was just a mess. It seems to me that the police know the truth of what happened and they have known since the beginning but chose to cover up for the family because of their connections. The only way that Paulette could have been taken that night was through the window, but she was on the second floor and there were no signs of forced entry. The parents' room was also next to Paulette's bedroom, but they don't remember hearing any weird noises during the night and the dogs they had didn't bark at all. I would have believed the kidnapping story, but the fact that the body was found, hidden days later, suggests that it was someone in the household who killed the little girl. Hopefully, one day we'll have the answers.
There's an article here suggesting that in an interview the mother gave before the discovery of Paulette's body, the clothes she was found in were folded up and sitting on her bed. Edit found footage of that interview and those are clearly the same pajamas she was later found in.
Just wanted to say that you are an excellent writer, especially if English is not your first language. I'm familiar with this case but can never make heads or tails of it. My personal theory is that the couple realized they would need to let the nannies go because of financial worries, and one, either Lizette or Mauricio, or both, could not handle the thought and killed her. Maybe they believed her death would end a lot of their financial worries, since her medication and health expenses were costly, or two, one of the nannies did it in retaliation or even a sixth sense of helping Paulette, i.e. not leaving her to live with her awful mother. I don't think two is what happened though. I think it was the parents. I also feel like it's hard to know who to believe in this case, because there was so much malfeasance. We have very few facts. Was Paulette dead 3 days or a week? Was she at the bottom of the bed the whole time or planted? How thoroughly did everyone really search? Because if we believe the police were incompetent, then they could have botched the search too. I do think she could have been there the whole time, but eventually decomposition and gravity made her more obvious. There was a fair amount of space between the mattress and the bed frame. TBH, I've never understood that weird-ass bed frame, never seen one like it before or since, or why they had a 4-year-old with disabilities sleeping in a bed that large. Maybe the nanny slept with her sometimes? At 4, my niece and nephew were still in toddler beds. I know because I bought them their first big kid bunk bed for their 5th birthday. This case really is similar to JBR, though I didn't realize it until I read your excellent post.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I do believe that the motive behind Paulette's death was the financial difficulties her parents were having. They could have killed her to end their financial worries, as you said, or tried to stage a kidnapping and ask for money from the girl's grandparents. I remember reading Paulette's paternal grandfather adored the girl and would have done anything for her. Truth is, the police know more than what they told everyone. The girl's father had strong ties with politicians and this might have played an important role on how the investigation was handled. Many of the forensic experts claim that they weren't allowed to work that day, they couldn't search for fingerprints, or blood, and Castillo told them to do only what he told them. When Paulette was found, one of the coroners strongly refused to sign the certificate because it listed the time of her death as being 9 days prior to her discovery, when he was certain it was only 3 to 5. He criticized the other coroner as he signed the death certificate, and his only reply was, "That's what they ordered me to do. And I do what the boss tells me." Unfortunately, this is the reality in Mexico. If the police wants to hide something or lie in their investigations, they will. And if you don't cooperate, you either get fired or sometimes even killed. Funny you mentioned the bed. Actually, Lizette said that they just had bought that bed for Paulette and she had only been sleeping there for a few days and they were testing it out. She slept alone, but they put big pillows on each side to avoid her from falling. Apparently they hadn't had issues until the night she went missing. So, what do you think happened to Paulette? Do you think it is possible she was under the bed the whole time? Was she killed intentionally? Share your theory in the comments below. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it and subscribe. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it and subscribe. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it and subscribe.